Good morning students. Dr. Momita Dey is here to continue with the rest parts of principles of epidemiology. So what we are going to learn today, the different types of rates, the concept of numerator and denominator, measurements of mortality as well as measurements of morbidity and different types of epidemiological studies. In the previous class, we have introduced the measurements of epidemiology. So, a quick recapitulation. The health problems in community can be measured in terms of morbidity, mortality, disability, natality and demographic variables. And what are the basic tools of measurement? These are rate, ratio and proportion. Also, we have studied what do you mean by rate, ratio and proportion. That is, rate is the occurrence of some particular events in a population during a given period of time, whereas ratio expresses the relation in size between two quantities, and proportion is a ratio in which the numerator is a part of the denominator and it is usually expressed as a percentage, and it shows the relation of the part to the whole. So what are the different types of rates? The types of rates can be crude rates which apply to the total population in a given area. The rates can be specific rates. So instead of total population, we can apply to specific subgroups in the population. For example, a specific age group, a specific sex, etc. or for a specific disease. Rate can be also standardized or adjusted rate, which are used to permit the comparison of rates in population which differ in structure. That means that the two population can be differed by age structure or etc. There are two main methods of standardization. One is direct and another one is indirect, which will be dealt later on. So while we are calculating rate, it must have a numerator, a denominator, time specification and a multiplier. So what is actually a numerator? Numerator is the number of times an event has occurred in a population during a specified time period. And numerator is a part of denominator, you can remember, in case of rate and proportion, but not in case of ratio. So what is a denominator? So denominator may be related to the population or denominator may be related to the total events. So the population can be of different types. Number one is median population. Why median population is needed? Because the population size changes daily due to births, deaths and migration. So median population is commonly chosen as a denominator, and the midpoint refers to population estimated as on 1st July of each year. The denominator can be population at risk. That means it focuses on group at risk to whom an event would have happened. That means at risk of measles, at risk group of coronary heart disease, etc. See, the another one is GFR or general fertility rate. So while calculating the general fertility rate, the denominator is restricted to women of reproductive age group, that is 15 to 49 years of age. So these are the population at risk. Denominator can be also percentile. What is it actually? In some epidemiological studies like cohort studies, persons may enter the study at different times and they also get followed up for varying time periods. In such cases, denominator is a combination of persons and time. For example, say if 20 persons remain in a study, in a cohort study for a total of 15 years, then it will be 20 into 15, that equals to 300 years of observation. So this is the denominator can also be expressed in terms of percentile. That can be also percent distance, for example passenger miles. That can be, the denominator can be also a subgroup of population like age, sex, occupation, etc. Again, according to according to the previous slide. So denominator can be also related to the total events. For example, while calculating infant mortality rate, the denominator is total number of live births. In case of case fatality rate, the denominator is total number of cases. In case of accidents, the denominator is number of accidents per 1000 vehicles. So in these cases, the denominator is not related to the total population. Instead, it is related to total events. So mortality. Universally, most epidemiological studies begin with mortality data. So mortality is a term, you know that it means death, or it describes death and related issues. The basis of mortality data is the death certificate, and the death certificate recommended by WHO is for international use. So what is the international death certificate? Usually international death certificate comprises of two parts. Part 1 signifies the immediate cause of death and also the antecedent or underlying cause of death. This underlying cause or antecedent cause of death is the essence of international death certificate, which means the disease or injury which initiated the train of morbid events, ultimately leading to directly to death. And what is part 2? The part 2, it signifies the associated comorbidities which contributed to death but did not directly lead to death. So international death certificate is the basis of mortality data, but it also has some limitations. What are those? There may be incomplete reporting of deaths, it can be inaccurate, it can lack the uniformity, or the diseases with low mortality. For example, mental disease, arthritis. In those cases, the mortality statistics is of no use. Now, the death certificate used in India usually almost similar like the international death certificate, along with a set of questions are added. Especially in case of death during pregnancy and infancy, the death certificates are helpful to improve the quality of maternal mortality or infant mortality data. Here is a form showing the death certificate used in India. You can see that the initial part or the first part usually having the background information of the deceased. The second part is the cause of death, that is similar to the international death certificate. That is the part 1 comprises of immediate cause and antecedent cause, and part 2 is the significant condition contributing to the death, that is the associated comorbidities. The third part, that is the manner of death, that is the additional part, that can be either natural or accidental or suicidal or homicidal and so on. And also how did the injury occur, you have to mention. And if the deceased was a female, whether the disease death was associated with pregnancy, and if yes, whether there were a delivery or not, you have to mention. And next part is the name and signature and so on. Now the different mortality rates. These rates measures actually the magnitude of deaths in a community. So some are crude, like crude death rate, some are specific mortality rate, and some are adjusted or standardized mortality rate. So the commonly used mortality rates are, first one is crude death rate. Crude death rate is denoted by number of deaths during the year divided by median population into 1000. It is the simplest measure of mortality rate, but it does not account for differences of age, sex, etc. in any aspect of death. It only considers the total population. So information needed are total number of deaths, total number of population, and a given period of time. So what are the other death rate? So number 2 is specific death rate. That can be any cause or disease specific, that can be group specific like age specific, sex specific, etc. But specific death rate can be obtained if only there is presence of satisfactory civil registration and also increased proportion of deaths are certified medically. then only we can calculate the specific death rate. So one by one, first one is age specific death rate. What is that? It is the total number of deaths in a specified age group in a defined area during a specified period divided by median population of that specified age group into 1000. Next is the sex specific death rate. What is it? It is the total number of deaths in males or in females in a defined area during a specified period to median population of that specific sex, that is either male or female, into 1000. Next is the disease or cause specific death rate. This is calculated by total number of deaths due to a disease, for example say cancers, in a defined area during a specified period to median population into 1000. Other death rates are very important. One is case fatality rate or CFR, which is used in case of acute diseases like in food poisoning, cholera, measles, diarrhea, etc. But it has been limited use in chronic diseases because it represents only the killing power of a disease and it is closely related to virulence of a disease. So how case fatality rate is calculated? It is calculated by the number of deaths during a specified time period after a disease onset or diagnosis divided by number of persons suffering from that specified disease, and it is expressed in terms of percentage. So the multiplier is 100. The next important is proportional mortality rate or ratio. So proportional mortality from a specific disease or proportional mortality can be of a specific age group. For example, under 5 proportionate mortality rate, or for aged 50 years and above. So how proportional mortality rate from a specific disease is calculated? It is the number of deaths from a specific disease in a year divided by total deaths from all causes in that year into 100. Now the adjusted or standardized rates. So the adjusted or standardized rate can be either by means of direct standardization or by means of indirect standardization. So what is it? So when we want to compare the death rates of two population of two different time periods having different age composition, then crude death rate or specific death rate cannot be used. Because here the two population is having the different age composition. So in that case we need the standardized death rates by means of age adjustment. Okay. So first is the direct method of age standardization. Here I am putting one example. So see the table. So the left hand side it is the early period and the right hand side it is the later period of different time periods of the population. So the total number of population say in early period and later period is same, that is about 9 lakhs. But the number of deaths vary in early period as 862, in later period it is 1130. So death rate also varies. In case of early period it is 96 per 1 lakh, whereas in later period it is 126 per 1 lakh. So this is the step 1 that is showing the early period death rate and later period death rate. Now see this table. Here we can see although the total population is same in case of early period and later period, but in case of different age group, say 30 to 49 years of age group, in case of early period the total population was 5 lakh, whereas in later period it is 3 lakhs and so on. So in different age groups the number of population varies in case of early period and later period, and so the death rate also varies in case of different age groups. So now how can we adjust it, or how can we adjust this death rate? So here we carrying out a standard population. Here the standard population is assumed calculating the summation of two population at early and later period. So see the second column of this table that is showing the standard population. Here the total population is 18 lakhs because in early period the total population was 9 lakh and in later population also it was 9 lakh. So combining the early period and later period the total population will be 18 lakh. In case of 30 to 49 years of age group, in early period the population was 5 lakhs and in later period it was 3 lakhs. So in case of standard population, we assume that in 30 to 49 years of age group, the total population is 5 lakhs plus 3 lakhs, that is 8 lakhs, and so on. So now, keeping in mind the standard population, we are now just putting the early death rate per 1 lakh from the previous table, that is in different age group, that is 12, 132 and 406, and in later period the death rate is 10, 100 and 350. Now see the expected number of deaths using the early rate, that is the fourth column. So now we can calculate the expected number of death rates using the early rate, and the sixth column which shows the expected number of deaths using the later rate. Now you can calculate the expected number of total deaths using the early rate and total number of expected deaths in later period. So now the standardized death rate or standardized age adjusted death rate in early period is total number of expected death in early period divided by total population, that is 124.3, and in later period similarly, that is total number of expected death in later period divided by total population, that is 101.7. So now it is the second method of age standardization, that is called the indirect age standardization or indirect method of age standardization, which is commonly used as standardized mortality ratio or SMR. So SMR is usually expressed as a percentage, and it is a ratio of total number of observed deaths to the total number of expected deaths. SMR or standardized mortality ratio compares the mortality in a study group, for example say a specific occupational group like coal miners, etc. And if SMR values is more than 100, then the occupation would carry a greater risk of mortality than that of the whole population. And if obviously on the contrary, if SMR less than 100, then the occupation risk of mortality is proportionately less than that of the whole population. Now see the table, that how standardized mortality ratio can be calculated. See, the first column is showing the different age groups of white miners, that is the 20 to 24, 25 to 29 and so on. And the second column, that is the estimated population of white miners, that is showing the population of white miners in different age group. Next, see the death rate for tuberculosis in males in general population, that is 12.26, 16.12 and so on. The third column, we can calculate the expected death from tuberculosis in white miners if they had the same risk as the general population. So third column we can calculate the third column by getting the column 1 and column 2, that is the expected number of deaths from tuberculosis. But when we see the observed death or the actual death from tuberculosis, that is given in the fourth column, that is 10, 20, 22, 98 and so on. So summation of the third column will give us the total number of expected death from tuberculosis in white miners, and summation of fourth column will give us the total number of observed deaths from tuberculosis in white miners. Now SMR can be calculated by means of observed death by expected death in terms of percentage, and it gives us 241%. So as here SMR is more than 100, so here the death of white miners due to tuberculosis is much more than the general population. So after just seeing the different types of rates like crude death rate, specific death rate, standardized death rate, so we can see that there are different mortality rates are there. For example, crude death rate, age specific mortality rate, sex specific mortality rate, cause specific, proportionate mortality ratio, case fatality rate, perinatal mortality rate, neonatal mortality rate, and so on. And you should know the formula of each one as it is required for solving your epidemiological problems. And the details of this will be discussed in your epidemiology demonstration class, or already have been discussed in demonstration classes. Now the morbidity rates. So like mortality, the morbidity rates can also be calculated, and these are the rates that are used to quantify the magnitude or frequency of diseases. There are two common morbidity rates. One is incidence rates, that can be either in form of cumulative incidence or incidence density, and second one is prevalence, for example period prevalence or point prevalence. So what is incidence? Incidence is the number of new cases in a given period in a specified population. So here the time must be specified because it measures the rapidity with which new cases are occurring in a population. Incidence can be expressed by means of absolute numbers, in terms of cumulative incidence, or in terms of incidence density. So what do we mean by cumulative incidence? So cumulative incidence is denoted by number of new cases of a disease divided by population at risk at the beginning, and it is expressed in terms of percentage. Cumulative incidence is also known as attack rate. It assumes that the entire population at risk at the beginning was followed up for the time period of observation. So here the cumulative incidence means only the denominator here is population at risk at the beginning. In case of incidence density, the numerator is same, that is the number of new cases of a disease, but the denominator is different, that is the total percent time of observation, and it is also expressed as per 100, that is percentage. So total percent time of observation, as we have already discussed during the denominator calculation, total percent time of observation. So incidence density is also known as incidence rate, and it reflects more exactly the percent time observed. Now what do we mean by prevalence? So prevalence is the number of current cases that include old as well as new cases existing in a defined population at a specified point of time. In some studies, the total population is used as an approximation if data on population at risk is not available. So prevalence is again of two types, that can be either point prevalence or period prevalence. So what is point prevalence? It measures the frequency of disease at a given point in time. It applies when the data has been collected at one point in time, and it is given by a formula that P equal to C by N, where C is denoted by number of observed cases or number of current cases, that is total number of new and old cases at time t divided by population size at time t. Here I am giving one example of point prevalence. Say 150 children in a school undergo screening for refractory errors at time t, and 15 children among them require glasses. So the prevalence of refractory errors can be calculated by 15 by 150 into 100, that is 10%. So what is period prevalence? It measures the frequency of disease over a period of time, not at a given point of time. So it applies when the data has been collected over a period of time. So period prevalence can be given by a formula that CPP equal to C plus I divided by N, where C is number of prevalent cases at the beginning of the time period, I is number of incident cases that develop during the period, and N is the size of population for the same time period. So it includes the prevalent cases as well as the incident cases. Now there are different causes by which prevalence can be increased or decreased. So what are the causes of increase in prevalence? Prevalence can be increased if a disease is having a long duration or a disease is having a low cure rate. So the number of diseased patients will be accumulating and there will be increase of prevalence, or there will be low case fatality, that is death from that disease is, number of deaths from the disease is low, or number of increase in new cases, that is increased number of incident cases, also there is increase of prevalence. Again, immigration of patients whereas emigration of healthy people also increase prevalence. and also the different improved detection. That means more number of disease or more number of cases are diagnosed, then there will be more number of prevalence. And these are the causes of decrease of prevalence, that is the opposite picture, like shorter duration, high cure rate, high case fatality, decrease in new cases, emigration of patients and immigration of healthy people, and improved cure rate. So here is a picture which can be easily understood, and it can give the concept of prevalence and incidence. We can see that here is an entry trap through which yellow colored water particles are entering, and ultimately the blue colored water particles are collecting into the drum, and among them few red particles are coming out through the exit tap. So if we compare these along with these with prevalence and incidence, we can say these yellow colored water particles are incident cases because these are newly coming out, and the blue colored water particles denote the prevalent cases because these are accumulating within the drum by means of incident cases and also the old cases. The prevalence, that is the blue colored water particle or the prevalent cases, can be decreased by means of death or recoveries, which is shown by the red colored water particle. So either the patient die or the patient recover, that will cause the decrease in prevalence. The relation between prevalence and incidence can be given by a formula that P equal to I into D. So prevalence will depend on incidence as well as duration of the disease, and change in prevalence from one time period to another may be the result of either change in incidence, change in the duration of disease, or both. So here I am giving you some example which shows the patterns of incidence and prevalence. So there are some diseases which have high prevalence and low incidence. For example, diabetes mellitus. On the contrary, there are some diseases which are having low prevalence but high incidence. For example, common cold or flu. So after completing the different morbidity and mortality rates, now we are going to study the different types or different varieties of epidemiological studies. So epidemiological studies can be broadly categorized in two groups. One is observational study, another one is experimental or intervention study. So observational studies can again be classified into two groups. One is called descriptive study, another one is called analytical study. In case of experimental study, it can be either randomized control trial or clinical trial, it can be field trial, community trial, etc. Again, analytical study can be of different types. For example, ecological study, case control study, cohort study, cross-sectional study. So here I am putting different names. So we have to understand what do we mean by different epidemiological studies. So how can we understand the differences between those epidemiological studies? So see the figure. So first we have to decide that whether we are going to assign any exposure or not. Exposure means, that means whether you are giving any drug or whether you are providing any health education or not. So if you are assigning any exposure, or if you are directly intervene to the study group, then it is an experimental study or interventional study. But if you are not assigning any exposure, or if you are not directly intervening the study group, it is an observational study. That means you are just observing the study population. Now observational study can be different types depending on the presence of comparison group. So if there is no comparison group, then it is a descriptive study. So I am giving you one example. Say you are going to cardiology OPD of NRS Medical College to study the prevalence of hypertension among attending patients. You can find out, say 30% of patients attending the cardiology OPD of NRS Medical College and you say during your study period, you say January to March 2020. So during January to March 2020, the 30% patients attending the cardiology OPD of NRS Medical College are suffering from hypertension. So what you have done, you just collect the data and express the hypertension in terms of time, place and person. So here only you describe the study population, or you have describing the hypertension in form of time, place and person. So it is a descriptive study. Here you are not comparing the study population with any other group. So it is a descriptive study. So what is analytical study? When there is presence of any comparison group, it is called an analytical study. Analytical study again vary depending on the direction of the study. So first one is the cohort study. So cohort study, as you can see, it shows the arrow, that is the exposure to outcome. So it is usually a prospective or forward looking study where exposure has occurred but not the outcome. So taking an example will be more easier to understand. Say we are going to study the incidence of hypertension among smokers. Here smoking is the exposure and hypertension is the outcome. So in case of cohort study, we will start with exposed group, because here the outcome has not occurred. So hypertension has not occurred. Only we can know that who are smokers and who are not smokers. So here we will start with a exposed group, that is smokers, and a comparison group of unexposed, that is non-smokers. Now we will follow up for a certain period to see that how many of smokers develop hypertension and how many of non-smokers develop hypertension. And now we can draw a conclusion that whether the smokers are more developing hypertension or non-smokers are more developing hypertension. So it is a prospective or forward looking study. This is a cohort study. Now see the second type of analytical study, that is the case control study. Here the exposure and outcome have already occurred. So again taking an example, say here we will start with a disease group, say hypertensive patient, and a comparison group called control group, that is normotensive subject. And we will take the previous history of exposure of those persons, that is the among the hypertensive patients who are having previous history of smoking and not, and again from how many normotensive subject having previous history of smoking or not. And now we can calculate, or we can measure that whether the smokers are more common among hypertensives or more common among non-hypertensives or normotensives. So it is a backward or retrograde study, backward study, because here we are going from exposure to, from outcome to exposure. So it is a backward or retrograde study. And in case of cross-sectional study, here the exposure and outcome will occur at the same time. Now see the second broad type of epidemiological study, that is the experimental study or intervention study. Here we are directly intervene or assign exposure. So as I have mentioned that exposure can be any drug, or exposure can be by means of health education or anything else. Say one example, say some patients are provided with type A drug. Some hypertensive patients are provided with type A drug, say for example calcium channel blocker, one calcium channel blocker, and some hypertensive patients are given type B drug, that is the say one ACE inhibitor. So now we will see whether the type A drug is more effective in controlling hypertension than type B drug or not. So by means of experimental study, we can see that whether type A is more effective or type B drug is more effective. Again, experimental study can be classified depending on the types of allocation, whether the types of allocation is random or not. Here random doesn't mean haphazard allocation. Random allocation, I can say that random allocation means where the researcher and the participant don't know whether they are receiving the type A drug or type B drug to avoid the bias. So depending on that, it can be either randomized control trial or non-randomized control trial. So in a nutshell, I am giving you a brief idea about different epidemiological studies. Each study will be thoroughly discussed in your upcoming classes. So here is the end of the principles of epidemiology. To summarize, we can say that epidemiology is defined as the study of distribution and determinants of health related states and the application of this study to control the health problems. The principal uses of epidemiology are in case of healthcare management, understanding the disease process in public health practice and clinical and preventive practice. Rate, ratio, proportion are the basic tools of epidemiological measurements, and different rates are there, and mortality can be measured by means of crude death rate, specific mortality rate, case fatality rate, proportionate mortality rate, standardized mortality ratio, and so on. Whether morbidity is denoted by prevalence and incidence rates, where prevalence means the number of current cases, that is old and new cases, and incidence means number of new cases. And epidemiological studies are classified as broadly as observational or experimental studies. Again, observational studies can be either descriptive or analytical, like case control, cohort, etc. So here I am ending my topic. Thank you all for your patience hearing. We will be start with the next class and next day. Thank you.